Continental Tire Coach's Corner, brought to you by Continental Tire. You see the Continental Tire at sporting venues across the United States. Proud sponsor of IMSA Racing, Major League Soccer, college basketball. Continental's premium products available at leading independent tire dealers, car dealers, mass retail companies across North America. For more information, visit ContinentalTire.com. Continental Tire, for what you do. Former college coach, now a great analyst for CBS Sports, Rick Neuheisel here in the Man Cave. Good to see you again. You're looking good.
I am feeling good. It is great to see the Danettes. How's everybody? Happy holidays, and obviously great to be in your company again.
A couple of things to dive into. What is Oregon getting with Willie Taggart?
It's a great question. You know, he's a Harbaugh guy. He was the running back coach at Stanford for Jim, and he played for Jim's dad, Jack Harbaugh, at Western Kentucky. Yeah. And so he believes in the power. He's going to run downhill. It's going to all be about, but everything that you see in the Jim Harbaugh way of doing things is echoed with Willie Taggart. So it'll be interesting to have him come back into a league that the arch rival, at least prior to this season, was Stanford, you know, because that's still David Shaw, who was also a Harbaugh guy. So you're going to have two guys in that conference that were definitely influenced by the Harbaugh way of doing things, and we'll see how it all turns out.
Are you surprised at that hire?
I am. I was surprised that they made the move on Mark Helfrich. Now, certainly the performance this year probably merited a change, but the problem is, who are you going to get? You know, as I looked around the landscape, and what Willie Taggart will have to do and do quickly, because Stanford's a completely different recruiting animal, which is his experience on the West Coast, is he's going to have to get a staff that understands California. What Oregon did wrong, in my estimation, and if you watched them play this year and you saw some of the matchups athletically with their guys when Ronald Jones came through the line of scrimmage as the running back for USC, and all of a sudden a safety couldn't even lay a hand on him. It's an evaluation problem. They missed on a lot of recruits. And if you look at their roster, they're all from all over the country: Pennsylvania, Florida, Tennessee, Georgia. Oregon was in the air too far and should have been down in California, like my old buddy Nick Aliotti was down there scouring the Northern California area and getting guys like Patrick Chun and T.J. Ward and those guys who are still playing on Sundays. Those guys are missing right now for Oregon. So Willie's just got to get back into the film room, make sure they're doing great evaluations, because they've got a lot to recruit to there in Eugene.
How do you win an interview? Because you've been in where you haven't gotten a job, and you've been in when you have. What's the difference? Well,
it's kind of just magnetism. It's like meeting a girl. You know, you see a girl in a lunchroom, and all of a sudden the conversation flows. You're not thinking about what next to say. It's very much the same. It's a relationship, and now with search firms involved, you have to kind of have a little information as to who you're going to be talking with. But ultimately, I think rather than trying to impress the committee or impress the people, I think you just go and say what you believe is the right thing to do going forward. And if it jives, then it's a great marriage, rather than saying things that they want to hear and then now having to tailor what you really want to do to what you said you would do.
How do you seek out another job while doing a job during the season?
It's my biggest problem with college football right now. I think that we have the wherewithal to move recruiting back and get it pushed back past the dead period, which now goes through the coaches' convention, which is just after the national championship game. Get a few more weekends in February, and let's stop poaching each other's coaches as soon as the regular season's over, and allow guys to finish their seasons. Everything we do in the college football world as coaches is tell our kids to finish, whether it's finish a drill, whether it's finish a class, whether it's finish your degree. We try to get them to finish, and yet we don't. You know, as coaches, it's very hypocritical, and we could fix it. We just need to change some rules.
Talking to Rick Neuheisel, CBS Sports college football analyst. Did the committee get it right with the Final Four?
I think they did. I still struggle. I'm an old schooler. You know, the Big Ten champion is Penn State. They beat Ohio State. I'm okay with Penn State going and Ohio State being home.
If it was reversed, Rick, and it was Ohio State who beat Penn State and won the Big Ten title, then there's no argument here.
The likelihood is you're exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you just
if I
change
reverse
the names,
their resumes.
It's the same thing we said 2 years ago when Baylor and TCU were fighting to get in. If those were Oklahoma and Texas, would somebody have jumped past them? we're in an era now. This is only third year of playoffs, so I guess it's much ado about very little because we don't have much of a sample size. But when you're sitting there looking and seeing that the SEC East has never been in, the ACC Coastal's never been in, the Big Ten West has never been in, the Pac-12 South has never been in, and now the Big 12's been out 2 of the 3 years. We've got this envy for these unique brands in college football that is always going to be the case as long as we say best teams in. We're always going to think they're the best. We need to go most deserving. Everybody from my generation to the younger kids understand champions get in.
I just think if you took away the school and you said, look at the resume here, and I know the human element is factored in here. Ohio State didn't deserve to be in the Final Four last year, even though I thought that they were a great team. I thought the other teams had proven themselves, but Ohio State is a brand. Now, they proved to be the best team, but you have to earn that right to be in the Final Four.
One of 2 things was going to happen for the first time in the college football playoff this year. Either we were going to have a 2-loss team, that would have been Penn State, as a champion from the Big Ten, or we were going to have a non-champion in, and that was Ohio State. And they went with the beautiful school, the tradition, the scarlet and gray. I mean, it was one of those deals. And not that Penn State doesn't have a fantastic brand, but right now there's the blue bloods. They're Alabama, Michigan, Ohio State.
They wanted Michigan in there.
Oh, they wanted them bad.
They
wanted Michigan and Alabama to square off. The Nick Saban, Jim Harbaugh would have been too spicy for words.
No, they wanted Ohio State, Michigan to play one more time.
No question about it. They wanted find a way to get old khaki pants a shot in this deal.
Wow, old khaki pants. If USC played Alabama now in Dallas, neutral site,
right?
What happens?
Well, it wouldn't be 52-6, but it would be still an Alabama win. Listen, I was down in Atlanta. CBS did it. We did an on-site our studio show from the sideline. They had 16 points with -7 yards of offense. Alabama's defense is just off the charts. I mean, standing there watching them, now I've been on some sidelines, and I know what they look like. That is a unique defense. You can't run the ball. You can't run the ball on them. Florida, in 2 championship go-rounds, has a net total of 15 rushing yards in 2 games. They were 17 carries for 0 yards this last time.
Are they a great team or a great defense?
They're a great defense. Lane Kiffin usually tries to experiment early in the game, gets nothing, and then goes down to pounding and realizing that very little can go wrong when you just run downhill with a great offensive line. Hurts is a unique athlete. I think they utilize his legs more as they go forward. I don't think they had to to get to where they are now.
Is Lane Kiffin toxic as a head coach, but desirable still as an assistant coach?
I don't know that. Yeah, I think that's probably unfair. Now, but it's hard for me to say nice things about a guy that beat me 50-0. but let me say,
did he rub it in?
Well, yeah. There's no question.
Did
when
you
it's
say
50-0?
anything?
No,
you didn't say anything.
That's my job to stop him, right? It's my job. But the bottom line is he has done a great job at Alabama. He's 3 playoff appearances
but that
with 3 different
you're
quarterbacks.
A head coach. There are guys who are meant to be assistant coaches,
and that's what he's going to have to.
Charlie Weiss was not meant to be.
If you and I were on the interviewing committee, those would be the questions. Are you ready to kind of be gracious with alums? Are you willing to spend time? Is that going to be important to you? Because at Alabama, it wasn't important for him to do anything other than roll out and make sure that offense was ready to score points and play along with that defense. Anywhere else, in Houston, I guess, is where he's being considered right now. He's going to have to recruit, and he's going to have to be ingratiating to all those alums that think Houston should take the next step into a Power 5 conference, and he's going to have to be the face of the program, and it can't just be X's and O's. It's more than that. More hats have to be worn as the head coach in college football.
Why would he be offensive coordinator at Alabama and then go to LSU to be offensive coordinator, maybe / assistant head coach, or I don't know what title, but
it might be a financial thing. It may be an increase of pay.
Okay.
It's a relationship thing. I don't know what it's like to work with Nick Saban, but it didn't. In the early season, it didn't look like it was a lot of fun for him. But and Ed Ogeron and he are old buddies. It will certainly give him more autonomy on that side of the ball.
All right, we'll come back with Rick. We had a big discussion yesterday. The greatness of Drew Brees. Is Drew Brees a better quarterback than Brett Favre? Better quarterback than Dan Marino? Save your answer, Rick. We'll be back right after this. Buffalo's back, I guess. There.
How about that?
Been a long time.
Sad story about Rashaan Salaam, huh?
Now, here's the former Heisman Trophy winner, running back at Colorado. When you first heard that he had taken his life,
right?
What'd you think?
You know, I had dinner with Rashaan 3 years ago. I was out to watch them practice, and Bill Marolt, the athletic director who hired me back in 1995, and I were sitting down having dinner, and Rashaan came over, and Dave Platty, you know, Dave from Sports Information. So we were all sitting there, and I thought Rashaan was doing really well. You know, there had been some concern, you know, the NFL career didn't last as long as maybe he'd like, but I thought he was doing really well. And I spoke to T.J. Cunningham, who was a teammate of his yesterday, and he said, you know what, there was some bouts with depression and so forth. And in situations like this, I think we all wish we would have reached out, we would have known more and all that kind of stuff. But all I can do is think about, you know, I recruited him. I tried to get him to come to UCLA. And he ends up going to Colorado. And I was a young coach at the time. I said, why Colorado? And he said, it felt like family. And I just don't know if he felt where the family was, you know, late in his life. Now, that's a guess.
Well, we wondered, most of us, concussion.
Maybe.
Anything concussion-related that you take your life. Now we think that when you have a former player who takes his life, and we thought concussion.
It was interesting. You know, when you are the Heisman Trophy winner, you're put on a pedestal, and sometimes that pedestal's not comfortable. You know, you come and you're supposed to be around universities and be an ambassador and so forth, and that doesn't necessarily feel like your personality. And so who knows what that played into it. I just, obviously it's tragic. We all wish we could have done more and been there. But what I'll always remember about the guy, and he was a 2,000-yard rusher the year he won it, not the runs. He was fabulous, and not the screen pass. He made our double screen like magic. But on the Hail Mary, if you ever watch the Hail Mary again, watch the block Rashaan Salaam puts on to give Cordell the extra time to do the couple crow hops and launch a ball 73 yards in the air. He came back and literally decleated a Wolverine defensive lineman.
That's cool.
Decleated him. And that's the kind of kid he was. It was all about team. It was all about family. He was a great young man. I'm just sorry to have this news.
A topic yesterday on the program, we're all in on Drew Brees, that he gets left out of the bigger
Love
picture.
Drew Brees, yeah.
Right? So Paulie had a bombshell. He said that he would take Drew Brees' career over Dan Marino's.
I think that's right.
Okay.
I think that's right. Well, he won a Super Bowl.
Yes.
Right? Dan
Paulie, it's not a walk-off. We still have.
Dan got to one.
Two.
And I think, you know, so much was expected of Dan Marino because of the way the career started.
Yeah.
And it just never quite came to fruition. Now, the yards were there and so forth, but the wins and the championships never quite got in line with what we imagined was the talent. Brees, we've always kind of thought as the little train that could. You know, he's the 6-footer. I mean, when you meet him, he's my size. You know, and I'm going, man, this guy, he's throwing for this many yards in this environment. And when he thought the career was over at San Diego with the shoulder injury, and he gets resurrected there in New Orleans and takes that deal, and to see him in the middle of the huddle, you know, when they're leaving the deal, I just think the guy's really remarkable. I coached against him in the Rose Bowl, you know, Purdue and Washington, and so the two teams go to Disneyland, and my kids were 3-4 years old at the time. And Drew Brees came up and said hello to my kids. My kids thought he walked on water. So I've always been a Brees fan. But I would take that career, given the numbers, given the way he's embraced the city's embraced him, and the championship.
What about Brees, Brett Favre?
So I coached for the Ravens, and I'm a quarterback guy. I always admire quarterbacks. And for me, Brett Favre was too loose, too gunslinger, not enough discipline within the offense. Did he make a lot of plays? Just laissez-faire? Yes, he did. And they were sensational, and we'll always remember him as that kind of guy. But in terms of a structure and getting what you want from him on an every down basis, I would take Brees, because Brees knows what's going on in the defense. Brees, to me, we all say the term back shoulder. right? And back shoulder, most people always assume is a ball that's on the sideline. A guy going down and throwing it back behind him, the corner can't make a play. Brees took back shoulder to every throw on the field. The 4 verticals where the 2 guys are running seams, he put back shoulder on that. On a corner route, now we're playing, people are vicing what we call bracket coverage on a slot receiver running a corner route. He threw back shoulders inside. It was the inverse of a back shoulder. Brees found ways, he threw people open better than anybody I can remember.
The quarterback now in college that you'd buy stock in for the NFL?
Well, I think Deshaun Watson. I think he's really, really special.
Now, what do you do with Lamar Jackson when he comes out?
Just keep coaching the heck out of that drop back pass stuff. And I thought Bob Petrino did a marvelous job of that from year 1 to year 2. We saw him. CBS did the game. Louisville played Auburn in the opener. And he played, remember, 2 years ago, and was, obviously a great athlete, but nowhere close to a quarterback. In the spring game, I'm told they did nothing but throw. I think he had 54 passes in their spring game and did well. Conceptually, remember Bobby Petrino coached the Falcons. He's got NFL concepts and understands how to put patterns together. Lamar Jackson is not a running quarterback that takes advantage play action-wise of just what you're going to do to stop the running game. They actually drop back and throw the ball, and I think another year of that, because he's got arm talent. Mm-hmm. I think he's going to be sensational. And this Heisman thing is fascinating. Certainly he fumbled the Heisman, but I think he fell on his own fumble. Even because when you really break down the numbers, he's had 30 touchdown passes and 21 rushing touchdowns, and he ran for 1,500 yards. Watson was fantastic, and he's the only quarterback in the history of the college football playoff to take his team twice. But he had 15 interceptions, and if you just make the field goal, if North Carolina State makes the field goal, we're not having this conversation. It's just, and that was a 33-yard chip shot. Yeah. I think Lamar Jackson was off the charts. He just hurdled the guy at the wrong time. It should have been week 12 when he jumped over the Syracuse defender.
What do you think of Jabril Peppers?
Marvelous athlete. And it's interesting, as I watched him later in the season, he's not as hip. He's a little stiff in the hips. That's why he's moved to linebacker. And I think he'll end up being a box safety, kind of like Cam Chancellor. That playing for the Legion of Boom will look for Jabril Peppers. But when he was running somebody down and had to stop and twist, you could see that's why he's come closer to the box. But obviously a gifted guy. And I think what makes him special, great athleticism. But you see him in the middle of the huddle. You see his leadership. You see his want to compete. It's part of the fiber of what's made Michigan special again.
He's Rick Neuheisel, and normally Rick would bring his guitar, but those days are done.
Oh, gosh.
We miss those days.
I'm bringing those back. But there's nothing to keep me from being a poet.
A poet?
There once was a man named Patrick. There was worry he was becoming geriatric. But he found some pets now known as Danettes, and now he's considered theatric.
Freestyle.
I still like the guitar.
The guitar will come back.
Yeah, if you could be Paul McCartney or Mick Jagger.
Ooh, McCartney. Can I say, a guy was at a house in Long Island, and I think Jimmy Buffett's house on Long Island.
You were there?
No, I was not there. Okay. I don't get those kinds. You get invites to them. But I had a friend who was there, and he sent me the video, and it was Paul McCartney playing Hey Jude with Jimmy Buffett in the band. And it was just the
Coral Reefers.
And everybody was out there just, it is in his backyard. And McCartney just kind of hanging out. I go, that guy's got cool. Now, that doesn't mean Mick Jagger's not cool, but McCartney.
If you could be Paul McCartney or Joe Montana.
Joe was great. You know what Joe could do?
I mean, he's known as Joe Cool.
Joe could look down and throw it right there to Roger Craig without ever changing his hips, and just then Roger Craig get a first down because I'm looking at Jerry Rice and there's Roger Craig just going. That's what. Now I said I'm a quarterback guy. That's cool, but I'm still going McCartney. I mean, think about being in the Beatles.
I know.
What a run.
How about Montana or Brady?
Is there ever been a better player than Tom Brady? Seriously.
Better player?
I mean, seriously. That guy is this angelic assassin. He is unbelievable the way he prepares, and it's a little bit tainted because of Belichick, but we would say the same thing about Walsh in Montana, right?
How about if you had to have one vote for the Hall of Fame and you have to vote for Belichick or Brady?
I'm going with the player. I'm going with Brady.
Montana or Walsh?
I'm going with the player, Montana.
Hope you get back into coaching.
I hope so, too.
I do. I hope you get a chance.
I miss it. But I'm enjoying doing what I'm doing.
Because then you can play the guitar for us if you get back into coaching.
That's exactly right.
That's the only reason why I want you to coach again. You bring the guitar. One of our favorite guests, he's Rick Neuheisel, CBS Sports College football analyst.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.